like the TV in front of me. Get prompted. Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order our Lucan Biddulph Council meeting for Tuesday, June 20th. There is an addition to the agenda, and that is item 17.2, and it is a bylaw. And when we get to bylaws, staff will speak to that. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, well, tonight marks our last meeting before the start of summer, June 21st, the summer solstice, I think my favorite day of the year. It is an exciting date as it means the official start of the season that we wait all year long for. We go through 3 other seasons, eagerly awaiting for the longer, lazier days, and we bide our time during fall, winter, and spring, and long for time around the pool, for camping, for patios, and holidays with family. The next 10 days will be busy ones for families, graduations, and year-end celebrations. A reminder to everyone to take care and watch for all the kiddies out in the streets as they travel to their friends, sporting events, and the things that they like to do and take advantage of that summer offers them. Summer is busy as we all try and pack everything we can into it. Lucan Biddulph offers many activities throughout the summer, hosted by Discover Lucan Biddulph, our community service clubs, and other organizations. I hope that you take advantage that all our community offers during the summer months. First up, of course, is Canada Day, and we look forward to seeing you on the 30th for entertainment and fireworks over behind the Arena and Community Center, and of course, on the 1st for our traditional celebrations. Full details can be found on our social media. So on behalf of Council, I want to extend our best for a safe, healthy, and happy summer 2023. Okay, we do need to go and we need to sit as the Committee of Adjustment under the Planning Act. So I would ask for a mover and a seconder to move us into the Committee of Adjustment at 3 minutes after 6. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor, and that's carried. So we are now sitting as the Committee of Adjustment. So first up, we have a minor variance application PL-11-2023. This is for a residence at 40 Hardy Court. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Through the chair, thanks members of the committee. So the first application here for tonight is minor variance application A3/2023. And it is an application which seeks to decrease the minimum rear yard setback requirement for a deck that is proposed to be attached to a dwelling. So the applicant is requesting a minimum rear yard setback of 3 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback, in this case, of 4.5. How we get at that is that basically the bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 7 meters in the zone, then permits a rear yard encroachment for decks of up to 2.5 meters. So in this case, that would be 4.5. So what the applicant is asking for is a reduction to a minimum of 3 meters, whereas 4.5 meters is required based on the encroachment provisions. So that is a reduction of 1.5 meters altogether. So the effect of the proposal is to permit the construction of a raised deck. And the property is located on the east side of the Hardy Court cul-de-sac in Lucan. It's surrounded by residential development on all sides, generally in the format of existing single detached residence. It's designated settlement area in the county OP, residential in the township official plan, and it is zoned a residential first density exception 7 zone. So the applicant is proposing to place the structure in the rear yard of the property, which is fully behind the existing dwelling. And it will act as a private outdoor amenity area for the owners. Upon circulation of the application, I did not receive any comments from the public. Also, I did not get any objections from any of the internal or external stakeholders. And in review of the application against the 4 tests for a minor variance in the Planning Act, I am of the opinion that the proposed reduction to the rear yard setback is considered minor in nature, It would meet the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and it is considered appropriate use for the lands, given that it's directly associated with the residential use. So given the above, I am recommending application A3 2023 be approved. However, I would note that I would request an amended condition to the recommendation, and that being that the reduction to the rear yard setback only applies to the construction of a deck, and that the main dwelling shall be required to meet the minimum rear yard setback of the zone. So thank you. I just didn't want there to be any confusion on that.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Dan. Are there any questions or clarifications required by the committee? Okay, seeing none, then you have the recommended motion in front of you with the reasons. I won't read them all out. If anybody's watching, they can find the wording on our agenda on our website, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins.
I do have one question. Sorry.
sorry,
Like
yep,
after they move,
yep,
that's fine.
yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just kind of curious what, if they decided not to, if they decided to proceed with this without going through this process and they built the lot and this was done, then I guess, question to our CAO, neighbor complained and they proceeded to do this. What is the repercussions of that? Would they have to tear it out? Ask for forgiveness after they did it and then pay the proper, or do we have a fine? I'm just curious if this applicant didn't take the time to do this. I'm just curious, this may have happened before in our municipality.
So theoretically, in answer to your question, if we got a complaint about it, we would send the bylaw officer out there to investigate. They would investigate. If it's found that it's not in compliance with the zoning bylaw, they would be served notice to comply with the zoning bylaw. They would probably, I would think, be given the option to apply for and go through this process that we're going through right now to resolve that issue. And I say that all things being equal, I don't know, what the details would be, but a lot of times in cases like that, if it's typically not a complaint driven one, but when somebody goes to sell the property, a purchaser, usually a lawyer would catch something like that. And then that would be flagged and it would be dealt with at that point.
Okay. All right, before I call the questions, was there any other comments or questions? Okay, so the motion was made by Councillor Regan, seconded by Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, the next one on our agenda is a consent application, and it's for a property on Kent Ave. And again, Dan, over to you.
Through the chair, thanks members of the committee. So just for clarification, item 6.2, and I believe it's 6.3 on the agenda, I'm going to do them concurrently because they were submitted concurrently as an application. So it's a consent file as well as a zoning bylaw amendment application for this particular property. So the municipality has received, as noted, a concurrent application for consent for a minor boundary adjustment, as well as an associated zoning bylaw amendment application for a property that's known locally as 112 Kent Ave. The applicant intends to sever and convey as a lot addition a rear portion of the existing property, which is represented as a 0.27 acre parcel from the existing lands for the purpose of consolidating it with the neighboring parcel, which is located at 122 Kent Street. So on the diagram here, you can see it's the parcel that's directly abutting to the west. The remaining lot would meet the same size and characteristics of the existing lots, which generally front along Kent Ave in that particular area. As council may recall, the neighboring lot, which would receive the lot addition in this case, was previously subject to its own consent, as well as zoning bylaw amendment applications, which did seek permission to develop a single-story townhouse condominium complex. Likewise, the applicant has applied for that same zone to apply to this portion of lands, being the residential third density exception 13 holding zone. And that's specific to the lands that would be transferred and identified as the green hatched area on the plan. The benefit to the overall development is to create additional units for development while also increasing the overall engineering functionality of the parcel to be developed by adding additional space and lands for amenities, stormwater control, as well as the placement of services. The subject lands are designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in the local official plan, and they are currently zoned residential first density in the zoning bylaw. So I have reviewed the application against the provincial policy statement, the county official plan, as well as the township's official plan. Consolidating the lands with the neighboring parcel is logical and represents an efficient means to achieve infill residential development. The plan would meet the intent of servicing hierarchy requirements and generally represent sound land use planning. So given the above, I am recommending approval of consent application B2/2023. Subject to the conditions that are listed in the planning report. As well as subsequently, I would also note that zoning bylaw amendment Z2 2023, I'm recommending approval of that. And note that that approval is subject to a bylaw being brought forward upon the receipt of a deposit reference plan. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dan. Any questions or comments on the application in front of us now? Councillor Hodgins.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just looking at attachment 3 with the proposed site plan, just with that, I guess access road or the road extending further east with this additional property added, is there concern with emergency services? I know sometimes the fire department likes to have a turning facility and may not be in favor of dead ends. So is that being reviewed at this time?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Hodgins. So when we originally looked at this, that's one of the main concerns that we had with the proposal is extending the one-way street down. But the fire chief as well as the chief building official were satisfied that the 90-meter limiting distance to a turnaround was achieved at the T intersection coming into the site. So they did not have any concerns with fire access.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, then you have a motion, recommended motion in front of you. And this is for the consent application be granted, and there are a number of conditions attached to the motion. Again, I won't read this. And for anybody interested, they can see it as part of the agenda, but I would ask for a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins. Any further discussion? All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we do need to rise from the Committee of Adjustment and move into a public meeting at 6:14, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor? That's carried. So the next application is the zoning bylaw amendment application that Dan referred to. I don't think you need to walk us through that. But certainly, if council had any questions on the zoning end of it, I would entertain them now. If not, then you have a motion in front of you to grant that and then bring bylaw forward as Dan described. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? And that is carried. And if I could get a motion to adjourn our public meeting and reconvene our regular meeting at 6:15. A motion, Deputy Mayor Manders, Councillor Regan, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you very much. And for those that have joined us in person, thank you for joining us in person. You're welcome to stay for the whole meeting. I think that one of the ones that have joined us has stayed for a meeting in the past and has found it entertaining, but certainly I understand if you need to leave and enjoy the night too, but thank you for coming out. We appreciate it. With that, I'll move into our minutes for the evening. We do have one set of minutes in front of us for June 6th. And if there isn't anything that needed to be amended, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those as circulated. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor, and that is carried. Moving on to business arising from the minutes. Don't think that there's anything that's been added. It's just the procurement. And did council want anything added from the last set of minutes onto business arising? Okay, seeing none, then we will move to correspondence. And there was a few items that were received, and staff did not pull any for our consideration. But if council wanted to speak to any of them, then I would ask for that now. Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was wondering if we could just take a look or speak to number 5. Huron Shores letter, the Ontario Minister of Health regarding the healthcare crisis and lack of physicians. And they were talking about closing of emergency departments. And I know we don't have one in this area, but we do our service by a couple in the area. And I thought it would be a good idea that we offer a letter in support of their resolution. Sorry, it was number 5. Sorry, I don't know if I said that or not. And I didn't know if that was worthy of discussion or if we could bring that back at next meeting with a with a resolution for that next time. Thank you.
Any comment from the rest of council? Be in support of that. I assume you would want it be brought back that with wording more appropriate for our area.
Yes, sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor. Yes,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
Looking to council, but good with bringing that back. Councillor Hodgins.
Yeah, I would support that motion from Councillor Regan to bring that back.
All right. Okay, staff can take direction from that then. Were there any other items on that list that council wanted to speak to?
Maybe you mentioned the 2 invitations at the beginning.
Yes, I can do that.
Very-
Yep. Tina's just asked me to highlight the land use planning 101 that is scheduled for next week from 9 to 11:30 at the Wellness Center in Kamoka. If you are interested, you can register. I think there's an Eventbrite that was sent out, or register through you.
Just let me know.
Okay, so if you let Tina know, I've taken this before. It's great. I plan to take it again. So if your schedule allows, I would encourage that. And then the second one is the Dairy Day festivities on June 30th at Belson Farms in Strathroy. I'm unable to make it. The deputy mayor is going in my place. Again, if your schedule allows, I participated last year and it really is a great event. They put it to see a modern dairy farm in action is pretty impressive. So if your schedule permits, then you see how to RSVP to there. With that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to accept those items of correspondence for information, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Committee reports, Blue Water.
Yeah, we did have a short meeting. Nothing really to report other than recyclables are going up in price. So that's good for our budget. We're getting closer to what we did budget for this year. And then July 1st, I'm not sure if it's Ottawa, Toronto, there's certain cities starting the producer responsibility recycling program. So we'll be interested to see how that tracks and how that planning went. But I'm glad we're not leading that charge is what I'll say. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Questions for Deputy Mayor on that? CEDC.
Madam Mayor, we have a meeting Wednesday, June 28th, and I'll have a report for council in the July council meeting.
Nothing from Lake Huron. From our fire boards, you've got the draft minutes from both boards that the meetings were held on June 8th. If there's any questions or commentary from that? Okay, ABCA.
You've got the draft board meetings minutes from the 18th, and we did have a meeting last week on June 15th. Not too much on the agenda for that one. We did have a hearing for a property in Port Franks that was proposing to it was what right on the kind of the coast of the Sauble River and right in a floodplain, and they wanted to build something large, much larger than what was there. So we had a hearing, and it was decided to deny their application to build that. So that was interesting seeing that process. The CA Act update is still progressing with all the various municipalities, and we have now got our cost apportioning agreement signed here in Lucan Biddulph. Not too much else to report.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Hodgins. Any questions for him? Yep.
That vote then that you had, is that like a weighted vote? When you said that property that they voted, yeah.
No,
Was there a vote or no, or was it just a review?
so there is a vote. There's a whole process for the hearings, but it's not weighted. It's just every
No, I just wondered if it was weighted or not. Okay, but
Okay. Nothing from Parks or anything from Parks and Rec?
We have a meeting tomorrow night, Madam Mayor. I'll have a report for council in July.
Great. And trails, there is the draft minutes. I think that is from the meeting that you spoke about at our last meeting, Councillor Westman.
Yes, that's correct, Madam Mayor. And through you, we had a very informative visit from a representative from the Sauble Bayfield that gave us a lot of great ideas and talked about some joint efforts that we might do. Some of I think the more important things that came out of the meeting was our risk assessment. Some of our privately owned trails in our area are not open this year because of some issues with noxious weeds, giant hogweed, and I think it's poisonous hemlock. So, we're looking at how do we mitigate those risks to people using the trails, and how, can we do it through signage? Can we do it through, clearing out those weeds? Some of it is impossible. I mean, you could go in and spend a lot of person hours, a lot of money getting rid of those weeds and things like that, and still not get them all. So we're going to be looking at what we can do to help from the municipality, what if there's any insurance options, and if there's any other risk management stuff we can do to help make our trails safer and more accessible. And because, I mean, there are a number of things that we would think about, obviously the terrain and hazards along the trail, and various noxious weeds and things like that, water hazards, things like that. So this is something that we're all becoming educated in, and I think this is going to help us going forward when we start looking at building trails or enhancing trails that are in our communities. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Councillor Westman. Any questions for him on that? Okay. On to staff reports, Ron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first report before the council tonight is the extension for tenant security. Council may recall that we did make a deal with tenant security to look after our overnight parking for the first 4 months of this year. We are now at the end of that trial period. It's worked out very, very well. They were able to sort of get hold of our new program. I think it's called Citywide. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. Citywide. So they actually have an app on their phone. So when they go out to do the overnight ticketing, they can actually take a picture with their phone. They can upload it to the system and everything. It's time stamped. It's very efficient. So we're very happy with how that is moving forward. And we are suggesting that their contract be extended until April 30th, 2028. And the reason we picked 2028 is that's midway through the next term of council. So that would be appropriate, because the next term of council, whoever's sitting around the horseshoe at that point in time, can make the decision whether they want to stick with that firm or do something different. So I think it's fairly straightforward. We're very happy, like I said, with the with the performance to date, I do think that the new contract, especially this number 2 there, where it says at any time throughout the year, the contractor will, at the request of the township, also respond to parking complaints within 24 hours of receiving notice from the township. If the township notifies the contractor that the infraction requires immediate attention, the contractor will make reasonable attempt to respond as soon as possible and will be compensated using the hourly rate for a minimum 1 hour charge. That's very rare. I think, this company is very reasonable to deal with. So very, very happy with it. So the recommendation is that council receive this report for information and that council ratify the contract extension with Tenant Security regarding the provision of services of municipal bylaws and provincial offenses.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Questions or comments on the report in front of you? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm completely supportive of this this contract with Tenant. I was just wondering through you, do we get regular or somewhat regular reporting back to council just with statistics about the bylaw activity, like parking and other infractions, or is that something we could get?
So through the mayor to Councillor Hodgins, I think that's an excellent idea. I think this new program will allow that to be a very efficient process. So we can certainly do that on a, tell me whether you want it quarterly, biannually, quarterly. Okay, we can certainly do that. I think that's an easy report to spit out. So we can do that.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Councillor Hodgins? Okay. Any other comments? So just a couple of things. I know when we entered into the agreement with Tenant, we had talked about the fact that, they drive around in a logoed up car and that they're, quite often we get complaints or we hear comments about, some activity in town. I just wondered, was there any tracking of that, or do we know if it's made a difference having a car kind of go around? Unfortunately, it's in the winter. It's usually in the summer that you get the complaints that people are out, but just wondering, and I don't even know how you would do it, but I know that was a point that we thought, was going to be a positive, would to have a logoed car driving around.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how to answer that question, Madam Mayor, because at this point, like I said, I think everybody's happy with the service that we've been getting. I'm aware of one incident in the downtown area where somebody had blocked sort of someone else's entrance in behind the buildings there. And so we kind of dealt with that one, but that's kind of the only one off. And I'm kind of looking to Jeff to back me up on this. I think there's just the one sort of that was a different thing, but we haven't got any complaints that I know of, that I'm aware of. So unless you've got some,
if I may, Madam Mayor, so we did have that one instance downtown, and I certainly can't answer perfectly at 100% that the car made a difference, but certainly in that instance, when a car pulls up and uniform person enters a business and proceeds to ask a few questions, it certainly brings a bit of authority to the whole process. I'm not sure how much it helps, but it certainly can't. It certainly does assist.
Okay, no, point well taken. And I guess my another question I would have is to the point of bylaw, quite often we've talked about dealing with our bylaw enforcement in different ways. Has there been thought about expanding them? I know we do have an agreement with bylaw, with Middlesex Center. But I just wondered if there's any thought of expanding the role that Tenant has.
so through you, Madam Mayor, to the rest of council, I think at this point in time, we're very happy with sort of the separation between the two. Middlesex Center's bylaw enforcement officer is very sort of up to speed on zoning issues and zoning bylaw infractions. So we kind of steer those complaints toward Middlesex Center. Tenant really doesn't have a whole lot of experience, I guess you could say, in those types of bylaw issues. So at this point, we haven't explored sort of an overlap of that. And I don't know that it's necessary. I think the dollar rate, and I can't quote the dollar rate that we pay in Middlesex Center, but I think it's very close to the rate. So it's not that we could save money by using tenant as opposed to Middlesex Center or anything like that. So I think at this point, I think staff is very happy with the way things are now. But we'll continue to monitor that. If it changes, we can certainly look at at modifying either contract.
I know, I mean, certainly as we grow, I think we all anticipate that the demand for that service will increase. And, I do believe that there's been other municipalities that have contracted them for more than just parking infractions. So just to keep kind of top of mind. So thank you for that. If there isn't any other question or comment on that, you do have a recommended motion that Ron shared with us. If I can get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The second report before council tonight is the CAO-09-2023. It's in regards to the Housing Accelerator Fund. This one basically to bring council up to speed on as to where we are. The county of Middlesex planning staff have been very helpful, and the county clerk, Paul, I give him a lot of kudos on this one. He's really helped us out on this as well. We are moving forward with that in preparation. We don't know exactly when the release date will be for the applications for municipalities with populations of 10,000 or less. The application for municipalities with population 10,000 or more apparently was June 15th. So like I said, we haven't got a firm date as to when the application will be received for our size of municipality, but we are sort of preparing for that. The largest item before council tonight is, as part of that application, council has to commit to doing certain things. So there's a list of action items that were provided by the County of Middlesex. They give us a whole list of them, and I think they were included in the council package. We've highlighted 7 that we think we can do. We're only required to do a minimum of 5. Obviously, we think with, in consultation with the county planning staff, that we can actually do 7, and 7 is better than 5. So hopefully that sort of gives us some more points or higher standing when it comes time to figure out who's going to get the funding and who's not going to get the funding. I think we're looking for a little bit of direction. Are those 7 that we've highlighted ones that council agrees with? Is there any changes? Would you like some others? There are some in there that we didn't think would be appropriate. Number 1 being the parking requirements. I don't believe there's any appetite on the part of council to reduce the planning requirements. We don't have public transit here, so that's probably not an appropriate one for our size municipality. Some of the others, like downloading of approval authority, I don't get the sense that that's appropriate for us either. But the ones that are there, and some of them you may think, well, we're already doing it, and we are more or less doing some of them. So those are easy ones to tick off, actually. So that's why they're on the list as well. So at the end of the day, we've got a list of potential uses of this grant. And the good news is we don't have to commit to any one of those at this point. I think that's going to, that'll come down the road at some point. But we have to be very strategic as to which project we want to apply any monies towards, because I think we want to leave the option open that if there's a big infrastructure grant announced on the part of the federal government and the provincial government, and obviously our number 1 big ticket item is the expansion to the Lucan wastewater treatment plant. And I think we've got enough other programs or other projects that we could use that money for, not the least of which is the upgrading of the main sanitary sewer collection line through town. So again, at this point, what we're looking for, staff is looking for a motion of council to receive the report for information, and further the council directs staff to submit an application inclusive of all supporting documentation to the Housing Accelerator Fund as outlined in this report.
Thank you for that, Ron. Question, Councillor Regan.
I do have a question. Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I was wondering how difficult it would be to incorporate number 6, because that would seem to be one that would, I think, help our chances, because that seems to be the direction of government now, is to work with, and I don't know what that would involve, but climate adaptability, does that just mean, you know, do we know what that means, and is it something that we can do?
I can take a stab at answering this, and maybe I'll look to Mr. Fitzgerald to jump in if he feels appropriate. That one's a difficult one because it's kind of wide open. I think number one, there could be a big cost involved in just creating that plan. And that's the key to that one. That's why we kind of shied away from that. It's kind of wide open there, and some of the things are going to be expensive. So we tried to strategically pick from that list, the 7. Is that a fair answer, Dan?
Yeah, so through the chair, climate adaptability is a very broad terminology, and there's a very number of strategies that you could incorporate into, say, your official plan that would look towards those strategies. But a lot of that also deals with climate mitigation, health and safety risks, those types of things as well. Common themes that you see in larger urban municipalities would be things like implementation of green roof requirements or something of that nature. I'm not sure we're getting that level of development to necessitate that requirement, but it's certainly something that if council wanted us to look into, then we certainly could, for sure.
Councillor Regan.
So I mean, if there's something that we can look into, something that we can do that we're seen as being, you know, climate adaptable, and we're trying, because we're doing everything else we're supposed to be doing. And I'm just wondering, I mean, we may not be able to do something like, you know, the City of London can do, but is there something we can do that we say, yeah, we can put this on the list now because actually we're doing something? And I don't know. That's why I'm asking, what would that involve? I'm not talking about spending, you know, lots of money. I'm just saying, is there something we can do within our means that we can put this on the list? Because this is looked upon very favorably. Is that, yeah, we're supposed to do 5, we're doing 7. Well, now we're going to try to do 8. You know, that might just put us ahead of everyone else. Again, just a thought, just a question.
Are I guess any sort of green stream or green initiatives, you know, that would be incorporated in there, would those fall under the official plan? Is that what you're thinking? Like, so then would it require official plan amendments to make sure that our documentation was up to date, to do all that?
Yeah, so through the chair, in order to probably fulfill that incentive requirement, action requirement, you'd be looking at hiring a consultant to actually come up with an adaptability plan to amend your official plan. So you're looking for the inclusion of additional policies within your existing official plan infrastructure to kind of guide and steer what that means for you as a local municipality.
So, Councillor Regan, I don't know whether or not that's something that we can really do within this time frame. You know, the application process is open. At some point, it's going to be cut off. It's in the summer of 2023. I don't think from a budget perspective we can, but certainly, like, I get your point. I understand your concern, and we should be thinking about climate initiatives. So I would encourage you, you know, as the year and the term goes on, to bring this back to council to see if there's any sort of initiatives that we can take on. I would definitely encourage you to do that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I shall. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comment? Oh, I was going to call you Counselor. I know, Dan.
Yeah, through the chair, thanks, Madam Mayor and members of council. So what I would say is the county broadly pulled together these 11 action items based on initiatives that we basically saw going on across countywide. So some of these may be applicable to you, some of them may not be applicable to you. And by no means is this an exhaustive list of all the items. It's just those items that we saw as most applicable to our local situations in our different local municipalities, and things that that we may already be working on at this point.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Are there any other comments on the HAF application? Okay, seeing none, then you do have the recommendation in front of you, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor? And that's carried. Did you have any verbal updates, Ron?
Just one quick one. The mayor and I have a meeting scheduled with MP Peter Fragascatos on the 30th of June, which I believe is not this Friday, but next Friday. And we will be lobbying him for support under the infrastructure for another round of infrastructure funding. So we will continue to lobby on our behalf. So.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Did you have anything, Tina?
Thanks. Through you, Madam Mayor. There is a bylaw included later in the agenda. It was a late addition to the agenda. It's just to authorize execution of a severance agreement that was a condition of consent of a previous consent application. And like I said, that'll just fulfill that condition that was already contained in that decision. And I did attend AMCTO conference last week, and some of the sessions were quite useful. Some of the ones I attended were setting up your integrity commissioner for success. Thought that was useful since we're going to be looking to find a new integrity commissioner for next year. So that was helpful. There's some more on procedural bylaws, and as we're going to be updating that and how things have changed post-pandemic and bringing in hybrid environment and public participation that way. And a couple other interesting things. A big topic was the DC updates, which we're all familiar with. Did sit in and listen on that. Nothing new there that I haven't heard already. But it was good. So thank you.
Excellent. Glad you had a good conference. Okay, and no building, no finance. Did you have any verbal anything, Dan, for under planning? No. Anything, Jeff, under public works?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and I apologize to Lisa. I said, no, I didn't think I had anything, but I do have a couple of things I should bring forward. And the first one is we are on contractor is back out on Saintsbury and Alice Street, finishing that project up. So by the end of this week, I believe paving and all the majority of the major repairs that need to be done to finish it will be completed. So that's good news. There'll still need to be probably a little bit as we go along, and there obviously will be a warranty period of another year on any of the workmanship there. So that's good news. Second item I just want to bring up was the AOR's trade show. Took place almost 2 weeks ago. It was a success. It was good weather. We had a lot of people came through the door. But what I really wanted to bring up to council was Julie Overholt was one of the main assistants to making sure it came off a success, and the president of AOR's thanked her personally for a job well done, and that if she wanted some extra work next year, she'd be more than welcome to help at the next one also. So that's really good news. So I did sit in on a meeting about excessive soil, the regulations that came in, and I'm getting a cheat sheet sort of put together that I can give to council. So I will bring forward an update on those regulations and how that relates to site alteration coming up. So it's not, it's certainly an interesting regulation. It certainly does not have as much teeth in smaller applications as maybe we as a group had hoped it would, but I'll bring back more information on that. Just an update on what staff we have. The speed signs are out and they're being rotated through a number of locations. We have the traffic counters out. So we're collecting traffic counts on all the blocks in the rural area. And mostly what the fellows are doing right now, staff, is drain repair. Obviously, we get a lot of drain issues that pop up in the spring and we can't fix them till it's dry. So for the last week and another week, that's what we'll be doing. So.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Jeff, any questions for Jeff? Councillor Hodgins.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just one quick question on the Sainsbury Alice project. With that wrapping up and finishing up, just wondering how that one is doing, if it's going to be on budget or not.
Yeah, and through the mayor, so we did, we are basically on budget. I don't have any information for council that it's not going to be as of yet. The prices, obviously the majority of our costs were last year, and we were right in line as we went along. When we budget these large projects, there's different allegations to water, roads, stormwater, and that sort of thing. So it's a bit of an up and down what came in under budget and what maybe was slightly over budget, but at the end of the day, we're right on, basically coming in on target.
Okay, thank you for that. Nothing from Parks and Rec, anything verbal from Economic Development, Lisa? Nope. Councillor comments. Councillor Reagan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to bring a concern that I had that I just noticed and was brought to my attention by a resident. So, and I've seen it myself. So it had to do with the electronic scooters and the number of electric scooters we're seeing in the community. I'm seeing a number of people riding these around on our sidewalks and our streets, traveling with probably at a higher rate of speed, probably about 20 or 25 kilometers an hour. Young people without helmets, without gloves, without knee pads, blowing through stop signs. I saw one young fella wipe out on one of our streets. He wasn't injured, but his scooter definitely was. And I'm wondering, and I did a little bit of research, and I'm seeing that a number of municipalities are having some issues with this. It's becoming quite a topic in some municipalities. And at this point, I'm just wondering if we can maybe, and I'm asking just for maybe some discussion, or maybe looking at maybe a motion to have staff come back with an information report, because I think we need to get educated on this. I see this as just as more of a safety concern than anything else in our community, especially what I've witnessed in the last week or so. And I never really noticed them before, but then all of a sudden there just seemed to be this sort of explosion of these. And I'm not talking about e-bikes, I'm just talking about the e-scooters, this little, just 7-inch wide platform that, the kids are standing on. And I guess we need to be, I'd like to be educated about to see where we stand on this. If there's issues with, if there bylaws we need to look at, is it an OPP issue? I think, and again, other municipalities are having issues with this. I'd like to get some information about it and be proactive if we could, is really what I'm asking for. But I'm asking council, maybe some discussion, or again, perhaps having a report at some point.
Okay. Any comments from council? Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I whether it be e-bikes or whether it be, anything motorized that's not a car, I think we need to get we're going to need to get a better handle on, again, sidewalk, and are they to be driving on the road? Is it 16 and under? I actually don't have a clue, but I think us, and if there is something we can do to, that we need to decide if we create a bylaw or what, but I certainly are seeing more and more of these again, whether they're, to me, it doesn't really matter. It's all wheels on our sidewalks / roads. Where do they belong? What age group belongs on them? Is it an OPP thing? Is it a municipality thing? And then basically doing a newsletter. But I would say, Daniel, it sounds like he's would give a, would make a notice of motion to get a report in the fall or something, so we can be better prepared in the spring. But I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. But
Okay. Any other comments, Councillor West?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. I mean, I really agree with this. I mean, we all live in the community. We drive around, we see, we walk. There's a few things. I mean, the e-scooters are a thing. I've noticed that myself. I've noticed e-bikes riding on the sidewalks. I've been an advocate for many years of pedestrian safety. I don't know how many times I've driven in the community and come upon at night people wearing dark clothing, walking facing away from traffic, which is not the proper way to do it. It's, you have to face traffic, make yourself as visible as possible. And there are areas in our community that are not as well lit with lighting. So we have I think, an opportunity here to do a bunch of education. We need to learn ourselves first what needs to be done, but there's a few areas where we can actually reach out to the public through social media, through newsletters, and improve pedestrian and non-pedestrian safety in the community. And we've got a lot of growth and development, a lot more people moving about in our community. So I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to educate people on every aspect of it, whether it be scooter safety, all the way through to pedestrian safety. Because literally a couple times a month, I will drive into Lucan at night, or in Granton as well, and people are walking on the road facing away from traffic, their backs to traffic, and nothing on but the darkest coat they could find in their closet. And it's really concerning because it's a recipe for disaster. These e-scooters and things, I mean, it's good that we're thinking about it now, but it's been something that we've been seeing for a while. So I think a good opportunity here is for education. I think that's a great place to start. And, we can partner with the OPP, we can partner with the, find out what the rules are and get them out there to the world so that people will know. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Westman. Any other comments? I guess, Ron, what would the next steps be then on that?
Sorry, Madam Mayor. We can prepare a notice of motion for next council. As far as timelines go, did you want to give me, like, I heard the deputy mayor say a fall timeline so that we can position ourselves for spring? Yeah. Okay.
A notice of motion for what?
To instruct staff to bring
Oh.
forward,
I would,
or do you want to make, you can make the
the
motion right now if you'd like.
The motion, like,
To make
to direct staff. I don't think there's necessarily
So I'd like,
a notice of motion.
so I'd like to make, if I can make a motion,
You can make a motion.
that I would like to make a motion that we direct staff to do a report on the information report on the on e-scooters, and to the deputy mayor's point, e-bikes, with respect to our, I guess, our obligations and our responsibilities.
Okay. Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
A seconder for that motion.
With that.
Councillor Hodgins, is there any further discussion on that? Councillor. Okay. Yeah. Are you okay with that, Councillor Regan?
I am, yes, ma'am. Yes, thank you. I am it.
And just to confirm, that's a timeline for spring? Like over, like,
It's his move, but I would just say we next time the notice motion of staff have it done for the fall first.
oh, I see. I
Yeah,
thought
for
you said
next year,
spring.
yeah.
Sorry. I thought
Yeah.
you said spring.
Sorry, yes,
Okay.
for the fall, yes, please.
Okay, for the fall. Gotcha. Understood. Councillor Hodgins.
Just wanted to clarify the pedestrian safety component. Does that mean pedestrian safety in relation to these e-scooters and e-bikes? Because I think what Councillor Westman was referring to was just maybe broader pedestrian safety. So maybe we should be clear whether it's related to the e-scooters or whether this is kind of another topic. Does it make sense for these two to be at the same time?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think a broader view on just road and sidewalk safety generally. That's my point on it, but if it needs to be a separate issue, that it should be a separate issue. I'm fine with it.
It's your motion, Councillor.
I
Regan.
think it should be a separate issue because I've brought up the e-bike and the e-scooter one with no disrespect to the counselor. But I think it should be a separate issue just for those two that I'm concerned about right now. That would be the motion I would make.
Okay. All right. So it's e-scooter or electronic vehicle, not a car, traffic, road safety. That's what it's focused on. Okay. All right. We clear on that, council? So it is moved by Councillor Regan and it was seconded by Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. And then did you want to talk about pedestrian safety in general then, Councillor Westman?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would, not to complicate or dilute the matter, I would like to make a motion for a report on pedestrian safety as well, communication, education out to the public, because I think that's a matter that needs to be discussed as well. Thank you.
So moved by Counselor Westman, a seconder for that, Counselor Regan. Any further discussion? Yep, Deputy Mayor.
I agree with that, but I think it's gonna be, that is not a report. That's more of a best practice, I think, and educating and newsletters. Okay, good. Yeah, yeah, we don't need a report on that. It's just best practice. Yep, no, very good. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of then using communication and all that for this? Great. All in favor? Great. Any other councillor comments? Okay, moving on. Changes to budget, any notices of motion tonight? So we'll move into our motions, and the first one is for accounts paid. The motion in front of us is that the council of the township of Lucan Biddulph receive the attached accounts as paid for information as follows. For May 2023, $1,393,979.58. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Counselor Westman and Counselor Hodgins, all in favor? And that's carried. The next motion in front of us is that the council authorize Catherine Langendijk to attend the MFOA 2023 annual conference in Niagara Falls from September 19th to the 22nd at a registration cost of $1,100 plus HST. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Counselor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor? And that's carried. We've got a motion to reconsider the request for extension from Great Escape RV, and that is that that council reconsider resolution number 2022-159 passed on May 23rd, 2023, regarding the request received from Great Escape RV in regards to the agreement of purchase and sale for part lot 25 concession 4 designated as part 2 on RP 33R-20206. And just for clarification, this is just to reopen the discussion to reconsider. That's what this motion will lead us to do. So can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Deputy Mayor Manders, Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. So we have the motion open, and I guess I would look to council for discussion and comment. Deputy Mayor Manders.
Well, I guess I brought it forward because there was two meetings that the first meeting council, I was not at that, but if you review the YouTube video, concern a timeline of a building permit to building. And then again, the second meeting is when we decided that we would abide by our agreement. And then there seemed to be a concern on that it was, I felt it was imminent, that the timing of building and the in a site plan, but I don't know if that is the case. Now, after being here right now and reviewing what's been sent to us for review. So I don't know. I guess if the chair will let me ask one question to Great Escape RV. Again, I can't stress enough, and I think we tried, if you'll rewatch the videos, is that again, the timeline is critical and holding to a timeline. What would be the exact day? This has been long enough, the exact day of site plan and shovel in the ground. So really only need 2 dates. I don't need much explanation.
Yeah, end of July for the site plan. And then my
shovel in the
understanding is
ground?
you're approximately 3 months for building permit, so shovel in the ground, there is a slight, it'll depend on weather. As to whether that occurs in November or whether that occurs when the frost comes out.
You have anything further, Deputy Mayor?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Councilor Regan.
Madam Mayor, just asking for clarification. So, and maybe from Ron. So the permit, the site plan then the permit is July, or the end of July is the permit, and then, or sorry, site plan in July. Permit would take 3 months. So my concern, I'm just, and if I may.
You're not gonna like my answer because it depends on the complexity of the building. And that's the best answer I can give you. It depends on, the quality. If there's questions of the engineer, it goes back and forth. So that's a difficult one for me to answer. Arnie would be a better one to ask that question, the building inspector or the chief building official, but yeah. That's all I can say.
All right, okay, thank you. All right, thanks. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other questions or comments from council? Councillor Hodges.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I've heard from some some members of our community on this, so I did just prepare some words here. So I do remain opposed to granting the extension for the development of this industrial property. And as we deliberate on this matter, I think it's important that we prioritize the best interests of our municipality and its residents while upholding the principles of fairness, economic growth, and responsible governance. By granting an extension, we'd be setting a precedent, undermining the very foundation of future such agreements. And if we allow non-compliance with contractual obligations without consequences, we risk fostering a culture of neglect and disregard for our municipality's rules and regulations. It's our duty as councillors to uphold accountability and ensure that all parties involved honor their commitments. We also must consider the economic impact of this decision. The development of the industrial property holds tremendous potential for our municipality, including job creation, increased tax revenue, and overall boost to our local economy. By allowing the property to remain undeveloped, we're forfeiting these opportunities and hindering progress and prosperity in our community. I have heard from members of the community and industry, and I've heard that this industrial land is in demand and that there are local businesses with proven track records looking to expand their operations. And I've also heard from members of the community that feel that an extension would be unfair and go against decisions that council has made in the past. So I think it's important we don't lose sight of our duty to represent the best interests of our community. Our decisions should reflect principles of fairness, responsible governance, and pursuit of progress for our municipality. Granting an extension in this case would not only be unfair to other developers and business owners who are willing to fulfill their obligations promptly, but also jeopardize the overall growth and well-being of our municipality. So in conclusion, I would urge my fellow councillors to carefully consider the implications of granting an extension and instead support the resale of the industrial property. And through this action, we would demonstrate our commitment to upholding contractual agreements, fostering economic growth, and prioritizing the best interests of our community.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Hodgins. Any other comments from council? Yep, Deputy Mayor.
I just, some of those comments that have been made to myself as well, I'll reiterate what you said. It's not, it's also what I've heard as well. So some of them, you said a lot there, but some of it,
Any other questions or comments? I guess while we have you here, Mr. Boyd, I might ask you, so what is your plan? What would the plan be for developing the property? I know that you've got a kind of a phased approach. So you're what's your first, what's in the first phase?
So the first phase is a shop and rental center for Great Escape. That's going to also have an extra bay that is going to be rented out to offset some of the increased expenses of the current market. And then it's still up in the air whether that's going to be 1 or 2 buildings in the first phase. And then the second phase will be an additional building, build to suit style for businesses that I've been reaching out to. And then third phase is the actual dealership.
And then I guess, what is your timeline on those 3 phases?
Those are to happen yearly.
Okay, any other questions or comments? In the application or the motion or what we're discussing, sorry.
I don't know if staff can answer this, if whether this would float or not, if there was a motion made to see about an August 1st for site plan and then a December 1st for shovel in the ground, and the shovel in the ground did not happen December 1st, can we take back then the what started?
So first I'll qualify my answer. I'm not a lawyer. But I think at this point, we're already outside of the original terms of the agreement of purchase and sale. So at this point, it's in council's hands as to whether you enforce the terms of that or not. So I would suggest if that's what council collectively wants to do, is to give a bit of an extension. The date at which you pulled the trigger on that type of a move to repatriate the property would be totally up to council.
That it would be repatriated at shoveled in the ground December 1st then type thing. Yep, gotcha. Yep, if the construction hasn't started. No, I just, because again, there was already lenience as, I'm struggling, lenience to the purchase of the property. So there has been an extension given that, again, no one else had the ability to buy the property. So there has been already one extension given. It just happened to be before the purchase as opposed to after. I'll see if there's any more comments.
Any further discussion on this? Guess if I'm going to be honest, I'm struggling as well. Many of the comments that Councillor Hodgins shared have been shared with me, and we've extended it. We extended the original agreement, and I know that we've all had a number of issues in front of us, COVID, all of that. I understand that, but I am struggling with concern from the community, and we do have an agreement, and by not honoring the agreement contractually, what that sets us up for in the future. So I have to be honest, I am struggling with this request.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just, and again, I would hate the applicant to spend any more money or do anything else, but for me, again, I honestly, I felt it was more imminent as far as, shovel in the ground than what it truly is. Cause again, we're not talking, again, that extent, I mean, potentially next year. I mean, that's a long ways away. And then again, if you don't proceed, you don't proceed, but whether there's an appetite, I mean, my minimum amount, I'll make a motion right now. I'd make a motion that building permit for August 1st, development to start shoveling the ground for December 1st. I don't have my calendar open right now. If December 1st is a Saturday, change it to the first Monday in December. If that's not, then we would repatriate the land, but that both those dates, and also that it does not come back to council for reconsideration.
I'm correct on this. Your motion is that the extension be given with a building permit expected for August 1st, shovel in the ground the first Monday of December. And if it's not, the property is to be repatriated, and the issue is not to come back to council and staff to deal with it administratively. Okay. I do have some questions on that. So if I can get a seconder at least for that.
I will second the motion for discussion, but I have
Yep.
a question.
Okay,
Madam
yep. Okay, you've got questions, Councillor Regan?
Yes,
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I do.
Yep.
Just to the deputy mayor's motion, do we need an opinion on that, whether or not we can do that? Ron, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know whether or not that is something. The idea is rather magnanimous if council approves that. Considering when I agree with what Councillor Hodgins said, I heard the same things. And some of those things that I was going to say as well with respect to fairness and representation of 5,000 residents. I totally agree with the councillor. However, you know, there is a reasonableness and, you know, being the way we are, I guess I would want to know if we can actually do that. So, and I don't know, so I don't want to be putting my hand up if I'm not sure we can actually do it.
So through the mayor to Councillor Regan. Again, I am not a lawyer. However, I would suggest we have one issue. We only have one meeting between the 1st of August and today, because we only have one meeting in July, and that's July the 11th. That would be pretty aggressive for Justin in order to get site plan approval,
Yes,
which he needs, which he would need prior to the issuance of a building permit. So I don't know that that would be a reasonable timeline for Justin to meet.
Yeah, I think I probably misspoke. I just understood that it should be site plan for, I guess, site plans first for August 1st. Yeah, submitted, sorry, site plan for August 1st. And then would be building permit, shovel in the ground for, would that be correct, for 1st of December? So it would go. And I assume, obviously, to Daniel's point, for signing it, we would, obviously, we would get it wrote up legally and it would need to be signed, and it would need to be reflected if this even did pass, reflected on whether it would want to be signed. But obviously, it would be, you know, we'd get it legally wrote up and that would be signed or not signed. If it's not signed, then obviously it'd be, you know, I guess I would, you know, it would need to be signed within 7 days or something too, because we need to move on too. So I think we can't just leave it hanging. I guess I would want it, I guess now as we continue to talk from the legal standpoint, that it's legally wrote up that this can be done and it's agreed to, and that in that it would, you know, again, there needs to be a timeline on that as well. So.
Did you have any follow-up, Councillor Regan?
I did not right now, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
So just before I ask my questions, just to confirm, you're amending the motion to take instead of building permit, it's site plan. Okay. Okay. I guess my question, and it is also, I guess, legal in nature, in that once a building permit is issued, how do we hold the person that gets the building permit, like how can we hold to account, especially given the timeline that now this motion reads shovel in the ground for December, because it's my understanding that that's not the timeline of a building permit. So how can council even entertain this?
I don't know. The simple answer, I don't know that we can enforce this kind of thing because again, once a permit is issued, we don't know what the weather, we could have a terrible November, winter could start the middle of, you know, could start the 1st of November for all we know. And it's just not feasible to get a shovel in the ground. So yeah, I hesitate to move this forward, but
Councillor Hodgins.
Thanks, and through you. Do we have the agreement available? Like, what was the term of the original agreement? What was that deadline requiring? What was to be met? Like, not just the date, but what deliverable? Like, was there supposed to be shovels or site plan approval or?
Need to remove that button, speaker. The deadline was for site plan approval and building permit applied for by May 30th.
And so just to follow up, you know, I think my position on this matter is going to be the same. I'm not going to support the motion to for the extension, so that's how I'm going to be voting. And I think we're getting ourselves into potential risk or difficult situations trying to tie site plan approval or building permit to another date. Really, this is serviced industrial land. It should be a simple site plan, I would think, because we're selling this as ready to go industrial, you know, and similarly, industrial developments shouldn't be very complex in nature. So I'm gonna not support a motion and encourage other members of council to do the same.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgins. Any other comment on the floor? I think I have to agree with Councillor Hodgins. I can't, these timelines and the uncertainty of the ability to hold to account, I think puts us in deeper water. I am concerned about us tying up this property for longer than it needs to be. And with all due respect, Mr. Boyd, I mean, I would love to see this development and I think it would be wonderful. And I congratulate you on your vision for the property. But, you know, May 30th, there were expectations that were supposed to be in place. And I guess I was like the deputy mayor, kind of taken back that site plan wouldn't be until July. I would have thought we would have been further ahead with that. So unfortunately, I am going to have to, I you know, really do agree with Councillor Hodgins, and that's how I will be voting on the motion on the floor. Are there any other comments from council? Okay, so the motion on the floor again is that site plan be submitted for August 1st, shovel in the ground for the first Monday of December. And if the shovel in the ground is not there for December, that the property be repatriated and that that staff, excuse me, deal with the item administratively and that it not be brought back to council. That was moved by Deputy Mayor Manders and that was seconded by Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's been defeated. Moving on to our bylaws, we have 3 bylaws in front of us. Bylaw 29-2023 to authorize execution of an agreement with Tenant Security Group. Bylaw 30-2023 to authorize execution of a severance agreement in favor of Kirk and Marie Hall, and bylaw 31-2023 to adopt and confirm all actions and proceedings of the Council of the Township of Lucan Biddulph at the council meeting held on June 20th, 2023. So the motion in front of us is that if no one cares to speak to bylaws 29-2023 through 31-2023, inclusive on their first, second, and third reading, that they be considered to have been read a first time and passed, read a second time and passed, and read a third time and passed. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the bylaws, please? Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor? And that's carried. And resolved that the council meeting be adjourned at 7:18. But before I call it, just a reminder that July 1st, we've got great activities and they start June 30th. And hope to see all the community out to celebrate the wonderful country that we are so fortunate to live in. So can I get a mover and a seconder for our adjournment? Councillor Hodgins.